Hello?
Hi, everyone. This is Sasha Weinrich. We are now live for the Finance Committee meeting. We are live on cam right now. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Before we get started, we're going to do a virtual Pledge of Allegiance. And then from there, we'll do a call to order and a roll call so we know who is on the phone, because I know this is our first time trying this out. So if you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance
To the
to the
flag.
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty.
justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Just a few let's officially kind of call this meeting to order. Just a few items, technical items. Please do not use speaker. We have gotten some, Cam has gotten some feedback that is not helpful. If you could use your handset or headphones, or that would be great. And secondly, please mute when you're not speaking, just so that we don't have any feedback. That would be really helpful as well. So again, this is the Finance Committee meeting. It's Tuesday, March 24th. I am going to do a roll call, and then if you are in attendance and you would like to announce that you are here, please do let me know. So I'm just going to go down the list. Again, my name is Sasha Weinrich. Ed McMillan.
Ed McMillan is here.
Jen Burns-Love.
Here.
Chuck Trafton. Chuck, you on the phone? So Chuck was on earlier with us, so I assume he is going to be joining. Let's keep going. Christine Allen.
Hey, sorry, this is Chuck. I think I was on mute. Sorry, hi.
Oh, hey, no problem. I figured that may be the case.
You have to hit *6 to unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you for letting everyone know. Christine Allen. I'm not sure if Chris Allen is here. Chris, were you able to call in? Chris was not. She wasn't sure. Divya? Divya Bhatnagar? All right, we'll keep going. Kevin Foley?
I'm here, Sasha.
Hey, Kevin. Thomas Ringler?
Here.
Hey, Thomas. Tim Shearhart?
Here.
Hey, Tim. Lynn Savage from the town?
Yeah, I'm here, Sasha.
Hey, Lynn. And we also have guests from the Community Preservation Committee. Donovan O'Connell.
I'm here, Sasha. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Is Bill Callahan with you as well? Bill?
I'm here. Yep.
Hey, Bill, it's nice to have you.
Thank you.
And is there anyone else that's on the line that would like to announce themselves? Please do. Give me a minute to unmute. All right, so it looks like that is it. If anyone joins or has joined since I said your name, please do announce yourself. And I think, at this point, we'll just move right into talking to Donovan and Bill about the Community Preservation Committee. So thank you both for being on the phone. We really appreciate it. And thank you for helping us work out whatever kinks may or may not happen throughout this call, as it is our first one. I would ask that for the first couple times you speak, you just announce who you are before you speak, or if you're kind of, if it makes sense to do that. If for the middle of a continuous conversation, that's different. But just so that the group can understand who it is that is speaking, and for also the people watching on cam, that would be great. Thank you. So we have the Community Preservation Committee here. They are going to discuss some of the questions that we had asked them, just kind of about the CPC generally, their policies and procedures. That was really helpful. They sent some documents over to us. And then, a quick review of any questions you guys may have on the spending status of open items. So they did send us the list of open items and, some of those commitments. We can talk about that. And then I know Bill is working on spearheading, but the committee is working on a web project that I'd love to hear more about. And then we can finish with kind of the proposed projects for FY21. So with that, Donovan and Bill, please feel free to start.
Thanks,
And
Sasha.
thank you.
So, yeah, no problem. This is Donovan. So I was sort of going to start with a little bit of where we are in the account, go over the projects and the finances sort of thing, and start with that, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. All right. So good evening, everybody. As Sasha said, my name is Donovan O'Connell, and I'm the chair of the Community Preservation Committee. This is, I think, my third year on the committee. It's first chair, and as Sasha said, with me is Bill Callahan, a former member of your committee, but presently we have him over at the CPC, thankfully. So he's going to speak to you, like Sasha said, about the website. Exciting stuff there. So I guess, like I said, I'll begin with the current state of the CPC. So as of today, excuse me, we have $9,187,814.20 in our account. A big chunk of that is encumbered to projects, though. So the largest encumbrance is approximately $5.6 million for the Recplex project that, as I'm sure you all know, is on hold. We have another approximately $1.4 million encumbered to the North Andover Housing Authority kitchen renovation project. That was approved at last year's town meeting. They have a new executive director that's come in, so that project has yet to get started. And then we have another approximately $450,000 encumbered to a veterans housing project that was approved way back in 2014, I think. So, that we're currently working on that. We'd like to either get that money to the applicant or close that project and recoup that money. It sort of hit a little bit of a, there were some issues because the original applicant passed away. So there's been some issues on figuring our way around that. I don't think that had happened before. So that's why there's a little bit of a hold up there. So those three projects, account for the majority of the $8,262,847.24 that we have encumbered. So our projected available balance at the end of the current fiscal year is $3,865,582.79. So that's the amount available for the projects that we are recommending. So in terms of the projects we are recommending $38,600 on a project at the Stevens Estate that would restore their original light fixtures. We are recommending $200,000 on a historic repair / refurbishment of the Schofield Mill, as recommended by the town manager. We are recommending $350,000 for the historic stairs at the Stevens Memorial Library. We are recommending $100,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust, as we do almost every year, so that they may pursue affordable housing opportunities for the town. And Sasha, correct me if I'm wrong. Everybody has this list, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to move a little slower if we didn't, but that's.
No, everyone has this list, and I did send around all the information that Lori passed through too as well.
Great. So we're recommending $200,000 for the continued support of the playground master plan. So this year, we're going to take care of Applin and Stevens Pond playgrounds. I think we have one more to go on that list, one more set of 2 playgrounds. Don't hold me to that, though. I'm not 100% sure. That's just my memory. So then we're recommending $50,000 for administrative costs, as we normally do. And I guess, why don't I take a second and talk a little bit about the administrative costs. The administrative budget is used. What's that?
Oh, sorry, there must be lag. I just said that's great. Thank you.
Oh, okay. No, no problem. So the administrative budget is used to pay the annual CPC dues of $4,350 to the CPC Coalition, which is a statewide coalition that advocates. It's a statewide coalition of town CPCs, town and municipal. We'll call them municipal CPCs, that advocates at the state level for increased funding, and then is available to provide guidance to all member CPCs and their members. You know, they have a historic record of all the projects that have been done, so they act as a resource and that sort of thing. It's a tremendous resource for us. So we also use that money to pay for our administrative staff's part-time salary. And then once in a while, we need to advertise for something, like we have to hold a public meeting once a year. So we have to advertise for that. So, you know, there's very, very little amount of money that's spent out of that administrative fees. So finally, it's not on the list that's provided to your committee. And for that, I apologize, but I just caught it last night when I was doing this for the Board of Selectmen. So we're required by state law to spend not less than 10% of our annual revenues for each category. That's affordable housing, historic preservation, and then open space / recreation. So this fiscal year, our projected revenue should be $1,909,964.77. So so we need to fund each of those three categories to at least $190,000. So if we don't, we're required to put the balance of that amount aside in a reserve to be used the following year for that purpose. So we need to add a line to that list that you have to include the expenditure of $91,000 to make up for the missing percentage of in affordable housing this year. So if you break it out by category this year, we're recommending $200,000 for open space, which is above the 10% threshold, $588,600 for historic preservation, and then $100,000 for affordable housing, which falls $91,000 short of that 10% threshold. So that's why we have to do that. So, and like I said, I apologize that's not on your list. It's when I was doing this last night at the Board of Selectmen, I sort of noticed that and went back and made sure we have to add that. So the grand total for this year would be $1,029,600, and that would leave a balance of $2,835,982.79 in the account. So that's sort of the projects and the current state of affairs with the finances. You want me to pause there and see if there's any questions, Sasha, or?
Yeah, I think that would be great, and thank you. I guess I had a question about the administrative expenses, about the admin staff part-time salary, and it might be also a question for Lynn Savage as well. So who is your admin staff, and then does that fund them directly, or how does that work within the budget?
Yeah, so
Lynn?
I'm going to let Lynn take technical aspect of that, but I will tell you that our administrative assistant is Jillian Brothers.
Okay.
Hi, Sasha. Yes, it pays a portion. The other portion of her salary gets paid through the town manager. Whatever hours we have dedicated for the CPC that she does gets paid directly from that admin cost. And it's minimal. It's like probably $100 a payroll. It's not a lot.
Okay. And do we usually have do we usually spend that full $50,000 in admin expenses a year, or is it's much less?
Oh no, it's whatever Jillian's thing is, and then the $4,350, and maybe if we have to advertise. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And
that's really helpful.
Whatever we don't spend goes back to the fund balance.
Right. Thank you, Lynn. Yes, it all reverts back if we don't spend it.
And Lynn, that's tracked by your office and then reported in the monthly reports?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So
Tim?
any other? Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I'm looking at your community preservation project balances report as of January 31, 2020. Just a couple questions. Some of these things have been on here forever and have small balances left. Are they complete? And if they're complete, what's the housekeeping that needs to be done to get these things completed? That's my first question.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And so since I've been chairman, I've made a great stride, Tim. You're hitting my sweet spot with that one. So that's something that I really wanted to address this year and have to some degree. We've closed a number of projects this year, but like you said, a lot of these are still open and a lot of them are old. And it's, I will say there are different reasons for every project, of course. I find that a lot with the historic preservation ones, there are specialists who have a waiting, who are able to, for instance, restore historic gravestones, and they have like a 2-year waiting list, right? Because it's a very specialized field, and they are the only ones in New England that do it. So they literally go around New England when the weather's right, and do this when they can. So I mean that's sort of the best example I can give, Tim. But what I would say to you is that is something that I'm very keyed in on. I know Bill, who's on the line here, is also very keyed in on. There are a lot of us who are making great efforts to close these out, Tim, and recoup any money that's still out there for the CPC.
You gave us policies and procedures. I so appreciate that. Thank you. That's good. A question, do you have closeout policies and procedures? I mean, it's one thing to look out and say, fiduciary-wise, we've spent all the money we will, and this is the balance left, let's close it out. But there's other things that are non-finance related that maybe they have to be on the checklist as well. Do you have a closeout checklist of that sort?
We don't, Tim. Generally, and again, I'll speak to my time as chairman. What I like to do is go through the list and talk to folks and find out, where they are and are they waiting for something? Are they done? We definitely try to be, the good thing here is that we work very closely with staff in the town, Lynn, and everybody who's involved in the town in these things. So we sort of get a good indication that they're waiting for something or not waiting for something. But to your direct question, no, we don't have a closeout checklist like that. I do like that idea though, and I'm going to take that on myself to draft something up for us for our committee to look at. I really like that idea. I'm going to write that down actually.
Good. Last question, because to me it seems like such an important transaction from last town meeting, and that was for the North Andover housing emergency generator. And looks like little to nothing has been done on that thing, unless you got yourselves a bargain and was able to save, $73,000. No,
I don't think so. I think again there, so I would, I would really direct that question to North Andover Housing. But what I would say is the transition leadership there has slowed some things down. Right, there was the previous director, I think was ramping some things up, and then she left, and then there was a big sort of gap there when they were looking for somebody, and now they have somebody again, and things are being picked up again. So I think, I can't say specifically, Tim, why they haven't spent on that project, other than to say generally, I'm understanding the reason to be the gap in leadership. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and we're going to have another power outage, right? So they're the most, they're some of the most vulnerable people.
Among the most vulnerable. I agree, which is why we thought it was such an important project.
Yeah. I'm not sure who can put a fire under someone, but I appreciate that. And that's all my questions.
Okay. I can take that on too, Tim. I have no problem calling and getting, trying to light a fire there.
You're great. Thanks a lot.
Hey, no problem.
Thank you. We appreciate it. This is
Sorry, Sasha, I'm sorry. Just to put a finer point on that, Tim, I think we are planning to have the new executive director in the next couple of months for a meeting. So I will call her, but I will also make a point to bring that up have her prepared to discuss that when she comes in to talk to us.
I just got to believe there's plenty of vendors that would love to bid on a project like that and get it done. Yep.
This is Sasha. Quick question. Can you talk a little bit about the Schofield Mill repair and refurbishment? What exactly is that?
Yeah, so, you know, what might be better, Sasha, is if I send you the packet that the town manager created
Great.
for us. She came in and gave us a presentation, I don't know, Bill will correct me if I'm wrong, maybe a month ago.
Mhm.
And she brought with her a fantastic PowerPoint presentation and packet, and I will track that down and get it to you. But basically, the Schofield Mill is, and again, Bill, I'm relying on you to correct any mischaracterizations. I hold Bill in great esteem in that way. It is not doing so well structurally, right? It is a
Right.
building of great historic significance to our town as the Schofields sort of brought the mills to this area, and you know, we very likely may not be here in the form we are now without them. And the building's falling apart structurally, and this money is needed to ensure that building remains up and healthy and structurally sound.
Yeah, in essence, they thought they had a termite problem a few years ago, and so they were treating for termites, and it turned out it was like a boring beetle or something
Yeah,
that
that's right.
didn't leave the
Yep.
same signals as sort of termites do. So I was impressed as a commercial real estate person that the new town manager, when she was looking to renew the lease for the thrift shop, had the facility director do a detailed schedule of conditions, I think you'd call it. And that's when they discovered the issue and, you know, sort of brought everyone out and brought some experts in and so forth and realized the extent of the damage. Because we had done some work maybe 5-6 years ago. We, meaning the CPC, had funded some work. So it was, you know, interesting to find out, you know, just what had happened.
Wow. Well, I am absolutely interested in reading that. So if you could send it whenever you get a chance, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do that. No problem. Anything else? Any other questions before we let Bill do his thing?
Does anyone from the Finance Committee have any additional questions? I know we had a lot of information that we got sent over that would answer a lot of them. But if you have any questions for Donovan, let me know, please.
Yeah, hi, guys. This is Ed McMillan. I just had kind of a procedural question. How do things end up
Sure.
on the list of priorities? I realize you get them all approved at the town meeting, but do you go out and solicit ideas? Do people come to you? Do you decide most of them just with a group of knowledgeable people? How do these things end up on the list?
No, so we require an application to be filled out. So someone will have a project that they believe meets the specifications of funding, you know, the specifications that the CPC needs for funding, and they will submit an application to us. We then go over all of the applications we get for the year and discuss, debate, and vote on recommendations for town meeting. We do hold an annual meeting every year where, you know, all of us certainly go out and spread the word of CPC. We'd like, you know, to get as many applications as we possibly could, to be quite honest with you. All of our members, I know there are Board of Selectmen members, a lot of folks in town who go out and talk about the great works that the CPC has done and encourage folks to look at it as a potential funding mechanism for historic preservation, open space, recreation, affordable housing projects within town. Does that answer your question, Ed?
It does, yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, so I think if anyone doesn't have any other questions, Bill, maybe you could talk about the web project you're working on.
Sure. So this is Bill Callahan from the Community Preservation Committee. What we've been working on over the past, say, 16 months or so is to get a database of all the town projects displayed on a map. And so we have that. And when I say we've been working on, I mean Chris McClure, who's been amazing. So we sort of put all the information together and got it to Chris, and he has this. I'll send the links. I was ready to present, but then I realized people were on the phone. So I'll send all the links for this. So we have the shell sort of built out. We have the geolocations of all the different projects that we funded over the years. So you can look at a map and see just, you know, the impact that we've had on the town, which I think is really important. And now it's basically the next phase of the project is taking it from the shell to loading all the data into it. So right now we have, for example, the year it was funded, how much money was spent and so forth. What we want to add over the next, year is all the documentation, the grant application. Now we have, one of the things that Town Manager Mailer worked on and the Town Attorney Susan Egan worked on was a more rigorous sort of agreement between the town and the applicants over, what the requirements were. Part of that includes a quarterly update. And so what we want to do is put all that data, all those records right out in the same spot so that you can go to the map, click on the Schofield Mill project, for example, and see their application, see the presentation from the town manager, and then see, how much has been spent. And we also, in terms of what Donovan was talking about, the last time we talked about the web project, what we talked about was, having a checklist of all the items that were there and then sort of a closeout, thing, and including pictures so that people could see, what it looked like when it was done, or what it looks like now if it's open space. And so, Chris has got it built, and it looks like the labor to do that, he thought it could mostly come through the STAR program that the senior citizens who do a lot of that work at Town Hall could, start scanning these documents and uploading them and so forth. So, that's what I want to work on over the summer, is to meet a few times with Chris and develop a workflow and, see that the rest of that material gets uploaded. And then eventually where we'd like to be is that instead of, a quarterly update that's done right now, we've got people who've had recently funded projects in the past few years and in the new grant agreement, like the Housing Authority and people who work with us closely, they are sending us a quarterly update to say, this is how much money we expended over the last quarter. This is where we expect to be. This is our expected end date and so forth. And what we'd like to do is actually automate that so that at the end of the quarter, or, approaching the end of the quarter, an email would go out to the project sponsor, and they would be directed to a database so they could just, type right in instead of, downloading a form and writing on it and then it getting forwarded out to us. But they could go right into the database and update it themselves and say, this quarter we spent $10,000 on grave repair. We don't expect to do anything the next 2 quarters because it's winter. And then we'll come back in the spring and finish up, and our estimated, finish date is June 30th. So that's where we want to go. The first couple layers are actually, very impressive, the geolocation and so forth. And really for Chris, he was saying, hey, we've been working on this already. This is not, a difficult thing for us. So, it's really fantastic work that he's been doing. And, when you look, if you poke around a little bit at some of the mapping things he's done, it's pretty amazing. You can even drill down to like who's got a dog license where and so forth. So it's pretty amazing stuff. And I would say we're pretty lucky to have an IT director of the caliber of Chris McClure.
And we're lucky to have a CPC board member who's willing to pull up his sleeves and get into it with Chris, who I agree is fantastic. Thank you, Bill.
This is Tim. Sounds awesome. Tim Shearhart, Bill. It sounds awesome, and good job. I like pictures too, so very good.
Thank you. No, and Terry Holland actually has a great, had a great like thumb drive with 200 pictures of different areas that we can load and so forth. So, a lot of help.
That's great, Bill. Thank you. I thought I was talking before and I was on mute, so my apologies for the big lapse in anyone speaking. But I think that's phenomenal. I think it's really helpful for the community to see what the CPC is doing and what they have done over the years for the community. So I think that's going to be just a huge asset.
Hey, Sasha, this is Donovan. Can I just add one more thing? And I think this goes back to help answer Ed's question as well. Another thing that we're going to be doing moving forward is when we fund, open space projects, parks and recreation projects, and even historic preservation projects, in the grant contract, we're going to be including a little bullet about including CPC signage on the project. So, like when you go to, the Applin Playground and you see the new playground pieces there, it'll say, provided by North Andover Community Preservation Grant or Community Preservation Committee or whatever. And I think that goes to Ed's question about getting the name out there more and showing residents what the CPC is used for and what it's doing for our community, which I think then in turn creates, ideas from people to bring forward to the CPC.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's great. So does anyone have any additional questions for Bill or Donovan about anything CPC related? I don't want to take up too much of their time. We're incredibly grateful that you guys were able to join in. I know it can get social distancing can get challenging sometimes. So any questions?
Sorry, I was on mute. One question. What kind of projects did not make the cut that you thought might have been deserving?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we had two projects two applications that withdrew, and one application that we did not vote to move forward this year. It was a project that emanated from the Stevens Estate. It was for the refurbishment of historic painting there. The price tag that was attached to it was $50,000. And we just thought that at this time, with all the things that are going on at the Stevens Estate, spending $50,000 on the preservation of a painting that we didn't understand fully the value of. We didn't understand the work that would go into it for $50,000. Maybe this way is a better way to say it. It was sort of the application was not fully baked, right? So we decided to tell them that we wouldn't support that this year, but that we are encouraging them. We pointed them in the direction of some colleges and Phillips Andover Academy that has some art history and some art restoration resources that they could go to sort of either, maybe one of those places would help them for free, or would help them understand what they need to do with this restoration so they could come back with a better application, a more fully baked plan next year for that sort of thing.
Very good.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for coming. And I think, feel free to stay on the call if you'd like, or to jump off. But we appreciate it, and this will I think we'll move on to our next item on the agenda, unless anyone has any final words.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks. Bye. All right, let's move on. I'm going to take things out of order for the sake of so we can speak with Lynn, and then if she does not want to, have to sit through our warrant letter discussion. So I'm going to take old business next, if that's okay with everyone. In old business, you all were given the Senior Center project budget balances document, and I just would ask that Lynn, if you could, if you don't mind, kind of walk through this again. We walked through it last meeting, but not everyone was at the meeting, and I think it's probably valuable just to go over it one more time so everyone has a good understanding. And then what we'll have to do is we'll have to vote on, have to take a revised vote on a revised capital improvement plan.
Okay.
And that will take place at our next meeting on April 8th.
Sure, Sasha, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Thank
Does
you.
everybody have the printout? Did you hand that out to everybody?
Yes, it was emailed to everyone.
It was, okay.
Does everyone? Yeah, everyone have that. If not, let me know. It's in the Google Drive from last meeting. So I think I sent you the entire, the link to the drive that had all the documents in it, and this one in particular.
Okay, perfect. So just to start off, as you all know, we've come back a couple times for funding for the senior center. To get back to a little bit of a history on this, when the senior center was originally put into the facilities master plan, which was almost, 7-8 years ago, the plan was to actually renovate the senior center out back of town hall. It wasn't put in to originally build a brand new senior center. So as you know, that over the years, now that we're 7-8 years into this, and this is one of the projects that's finally come up, it evolved a little bit. It evolved differently. So now we are now building a brand new senior center down on Sutton Street, on Sutton and Surrey. So the original amount that was put in there was not enough to build a senior center. So over the years, again, we didn't increase that dollar amount. We didn't do any inflation costs and so on. So when we voted to the facilities master plan in 2019 for $5.5 million, that was not to build a brand new senior center. But the plan that went forward was to build a senior center. We didn't increase the funding. So when Melissa came on board, we reviewed everything and realized that there was no possible way we were going to be able to build a senior center for $5.5 million or even $6 million. So last year I put in the capital to increase the construction cost to $750,000 because we knew that we used $750,000 to help build the kindergarten, and I had to replenish that. At that point, we hadn't gone out to bid. I did not increase it anymore because I didn't know how much to increase it by. We needed to go out to bid to find out what the actual construction costs were going to be. Those bids have now come in. The bids came in, and the total construction cost for the senior center is $9.4 million. So when we presented to the Finance Committee the last time the town manager came in and presented the capital improvement plan, we had put a placeholder in there at $2.5 million, if you all remember that, which is what you voted on. But she did say, as a caveat, that that number could change, which in fact it has. So there's a couple factors that increased it an additional $500,000. One, the original amount that was put in did not include FF&E. It did not include the generators and some other alternatives, other things to make the building whole. So when the bids came in, the architect included them all, and we are including those in this change to make it the additional $3 million that we need. So instead of the 2.5, I need to increase it and have you revote the capital for $3 million, which is $500,000 over what you originally voted probably 3 meetings ago. I'm not specifically sure what date that was that you voted it. So this will allow us to include FF&E, security, IT, and the complete construction of the new facility. Any questions?
Hey, Lynn, this is Ed. How many square feet is that building upon completion? Can you just give a quick, I know we saw it a while back, but
It's
like,
13.
is it the 2 levels? What?
Did you hear that? 13,800?
Oh, okay, got it. So is it 2 stories? Does it have kitchen and plumbing? Does it have, what? Not $9 million is a lot of money. What's just, if I am a taxpayer, I'd be, wanting to know what's in it in terms of amenities. What makes this such an expensive building?
It is 2 stories. And I know that there has, if you look on the town's website, there is a link to the project, and it shows a rendition of what it will look like when it's done. It's, it will house and have available space for all of the programs that the senior center needs. I mean, they included the senior center in a whole committee to help design and work to make sure that what they were building was going to be what the senior center needed. And of course, it's going to have a full kitchen. It will have, areas for a lot of other different activities and storage as well as office space for the staff.
I'm looking at it right now. This is Sasha. I'm looking at it right now, Lynn, and it's beautiful. The outdoor space is really nice too, with the tables, and it gives people, for outdoor activities, and it's nice. Yes,
it is absolutely beautiful. Yep.
Is there a workout facility for seniors in this? Do you know? You may not know. I can read about it.
I don't know for sure. I believe there probably will be, but I'm not specific. I don't know specifically.
Yeah, of course.
What it's going to have.
Do they check IDs? Can I get in if I'm under 65, or will I be stopped at the door?
Probably.
All right.
Okay. And just looking at the second page of that document, I think I asked this before, but about the contingency, you guys still feel comfortable with a 4% contingency?
Yes, we do. Yep. For sure, because there's a couple other numbers in here. We have the project manager. We included a 20% increase. And there's a clerk of the works, which is, $49,000, which is actually really considered in the cost of the project manager. So we've vetted through all of these. We did some value engineering and things. So we are very comfortable with what we're presenting board now.
Okay. And do we know what the estimated time frame on this project is?
I don't. I could get information to forward to you on that. I'm not as involved in it as I was over last summer.
Okay. Does anyone from the Finance Committee have additional questions regarding this project, or specifically regarding Lynn's document that she's presenting and the additional cost? Okay. If you do have questions after this, if you think of something or you look this over again and have questions, please just email me and I can reach out to Lynn, and we can get those answers before our vote on April 8th. All right. If there are no more questions, Lynn, thank you. Obviously, if you want to stay on the call, feel free, but I just wanted, I know it's late and everyone's been working a lot through this crisis, so wanted to make sure we got this out of the way so that if you have an obligation, you could jump off. So I appreciate it. I think we're gonna.
Go ahead.
No, sorry about that. I think there's a delay. So we're just going to move, I think, next, and if no one has any additional old business to discuss, to approving minutes. Does anyone have anything additional they'd like to discuss during old business? Any questions from last meeting, or if you were not in attendance, any questions from the meeting minutes? All right, so let's pull these up. We have two sets of minutes, the minutes from our meeting on February 18th and also from March 10th. So let's just look at the February 18th and then I'll ask for a motion. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from February 18th?
It's Tim Sherhart. I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 19th.
18th.
18th, I'm sorry, my guys.
Kevin Foley,
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, let's move to the 10th, please.
I'm having a problem finding. Is this just something I have to dig my emails?
They're in the Finance Committee March 24th meeting, or the meeting folder. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. It's okay. I'll be there.
I wasn't at that meeting, Sasha, so I won't vote on that.
I wasn't
Okay,
either.
thank you, Ed. You know what? I don't think we can vote on these
I don't think you can either.
because we don't have that Christine's because Divya, are you on the line? All right, we'll table those until April 8th until we have everyone on the line. That was at the meeting. All right, so that leaves us to kind of our last item of the evening and Finance Committee warrant letter discussion. So we had a discussion last meeting as well regarding the warrant letter sections. And I think, you know, the first thing we should have a conversation about again is just format. So the group that was at the meeting, last meeting, it was a smaller group, we kind of agreed that we liked the format of last year and that we would generally try to follow it. We will try to cut it down anywhere that we can, but that we felt like that first page having the executive summary was a good idea, and that, you know, we'll try to. Jen had a really good comment actually that because the executive summary ran onto the second page, and that was kind of our, you know, the second page first paragraph was kind of our looking forward and kind of outlining challenges, people may have missed that. So we're going to do our best to try to get that on one page, that front page, even with the little box that kind of gets put on top. And that way it's just a one page. If people are sitting waiting for town meeting to begin, they can review the executive summary. So that being said, does anyone have any comments or questions regarding generally the format or have any opinions?
Just to reiterate what I said last time, I love the format, and I agree with Jen said as well.
Thanks, Tim. Okay. So you guys tell me what would be most appropriate or you think would be most helpful. It's a little bit more challenging over the phone and without, me having a computer up on the screen and us kind of talking through it. But my thought is maybe we could just go through each section and people could discuss or just basically talk about what they think is the most important kind of topic there and just brainstorm quickly. We'll go through it relatively quickly, and then if people can send out to everyone their sections. I gave a date in an email and I will find that. I don't want to repeat the wrong date. So by that time, so that we have a fully we have a document to go through in full that's kind of been put together by April 8th, because we need to have this to Lynn by April 10th. So we really have a very short period of time after our next meeting to have this in final form. So I'd like to try to get ahead of that a little bit between now and our meeting. So we'll just start with the first section's executive summary. I will write that after we get everyone's kind of sections, because talk through this a little bit, I don't think it's helpful for me to start without that. Municipal and shared expense budget. Divya, I just saw, did send me something. I know she's not here. We can skip that for now, and I can send that around. Do you want to talk about the school department budget, Tim, because Chris isn't here?
Yep. I did put together some bullets. So again, focusing on what are the top holes here. I like the structure we had last year, but in a general observation, the school budget process was very thorough and well documented. Just an overall observation. It could or may not go into the letter. We will talk about the overall increases on the school budget, going from basically the cost of level services needed up 3% to a total of 4.52%, with the explanation about why. I was thinking about getting into this. Well, the town manager gave an original directive of only $301,000 or 0.59%. And then the school said, no, we need 467.5 more. I don't think it does anyone. This is for debate here if anyone wants to. I don't think it serves any purpose at all to get into pre and post rescrubbing of the revenue forecast for 2021. And we found you guys found the money, so I'm fine with just going forward with the 1.51% overall increase.
Tim, sorry to interrupt, Tim, if you don't mind. This is Sasha. I think that it's not enough. That would be very confusing, in my opinion, to someone who's looking at this and trying to understand the school budget just at first, right? If they didn't follow that process. So I agree with you. I think you should just talk about what the outcome was, right? That NP. Yep. And then if we want to discuss kind of that revenue process, we can do that in a different section and not have it be so directly correlated to the schools, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, I'm comfortable with how the revenue came together in the end. There's always been that cushion, and what you basically said is we're going to be transparent with that cushion and give out a little bit more now. Well, that cushion's always been there. So the school part of the budget will start out with a $50.7 million baseline for fiscal year 20, $1.5 million needed for level services, and $768,000 for increase over the level services, for a total of $53 million in budget. Highlight will include the 11 new full-time equivalents. I won't get into all the details that are part of the school budget as far as who, what, and where, and why. The other highlight of the year for me was the detailed 5-year plan, which was linked to projected student growth and achieving strategic goals. I think that was an awesome thing on their part, a good start. And in my heart, in my mind, I am worried about the special education cost. This thing is fractured. We started out a few years ago with a special education reserve, and now it's being tapped again this year. I got the sense that Melissa's no longer really wanting to see that special ed reserve. The reason why it was there was a safety net to be used, and put a lot of pressure on the school budget to pay for their own special ed. And last resort, in a special town meeting, we could transfer money to them. I feel like I get a sense that's starting to go away. So I want to talk about that because that represents the special ed part of the school budget is 28% of it. So it's pretty substantial. And those are my highlights on the school budget.
Are you planning on discussing it with your comment about the 5-year plan, that detailed 5-year plan, is a compounding increase? The increase year over year is like 4.5%, but that's on top of the 4.5% the year before and the year before. So I guess for me, there's a significant concern that that's not achievable without without a comprehensive strategic plan from both the municipal and the school side. That has to be figured out together, and it also has to be in conjunction with the facilities master plan, in my opinion. And so I just think that if maybe it's not appropriate to put it there so much, and we can put it in our executive summary at the end of looking forward. But I do strongly think we need to address that in some capacity.
Yeah, no, it will be in there. And I agree with what you said. I believe maybe not these words, but both Jim and the superintendent suggested that, we've got the plan. Now we just need to figure out how to execute against it and find a way to do it. So I'm fine.
Does anyone have any comments about the school section?
Hey, Tim, I just had a quick question, because it kind of goes to what I'm writing about, which is the reserves, the Special Education Stabilization Fund, right?
Yep.
Is that a change in policy?
No change in policy. You just get the sense from conversations that they're leading that way. And I heard it from Melissa. I heard it from the school budget process.
But I would thank you for asking that question, Kevin, because I will say that I recall, and my memory's fuzzy, so maybe we should check on this, that there is some, funding restructuring going on at the state level where they may now include transportation costs in their reimbursements. Do you guys recall that comment? And therefore, that number may go down right now. Does that ring a bell for anyone?
I thought we were establishing a new sort of a reserve account.
No. That the special ed reserve is around for 4 or 5 years now, and I think Sasha, yes, they don't know the extent of that transportation kicker. But you did recall correctly, and Kevin, this reserve's been around, and it's got there's some good stuff in the budget package as far as the policy for it. So that should help you with your writing.
Right.
I think what you are talking about, are you talking about the Finance Committee reserve, Kevin, the new reserve that they're establishing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Finance Committee reserve is what we kind of talked about with Melissa and Lynn and everyone at the Revenue and Fixed Cost Committee meeting, and that is separate and distinct. That doesn't change the Special Education Stabilization Fund.
Yeah. Question for you, Sasha. On that Finance Committee reserve, we have policies set up that for the stabilization the stabilization funds, the special ed, the OPEB, and yet we have this brand new quote reserve. Is there a formal policy at all?
Yeah, so I actually just reached out to Lynn and she responded, and I just haven't had a moment to forward it to the rest of the committee. So it's actually under, a function under Mass General Law that you are allowed to have that line item. So when I have a moment, which will probably be tonight or tomorrow, I will forward that to you, and then we can continue that discussion surrounding any questions with that information.
Do you anticipate that's something you want me to write about in our warrant article? In our warrant report?
No.
Our letter?
Yeah, we can. I mean, we can include it there.
Who
Because it's a
who wrote
reserve,
the reserve section last year? Do you recall, Sasha?
Maybe Liz Jern.
Liz Guerin
Okay.
she did, but
Jern here.
this is brand new,
Okay.
and I do think that ought to be included.
Yeah, I was gonna put it in the executive summary, but it should be a bullet there, and it's way more appropriate to have it right up in the reserve section, Kevin. So you're absolutely right. So I will forward that around, what the email, Lynn's response email, and then I will actually, Kevin, if you have follow-up questions and for your write-up, and then, you know, anyone else who has just general follow-up questions, shoot me an email and I'll compile them and I'll send them back to Lynn and Melissa so we can get some answers before our next meeting.
Okay.
All right, we can go to retiree health insurance and pension costs. Tim and Chuck, alternate ed. So OPEB and retiree pension costs. Does anyone want to speak to that? Chuck, I know, are you on the call still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, so Chuck and Tim, do you want to talk about it?
I've got some thoughts, but I want to see if I've been doing too much talking.
I think we need to reiterate the importance of OPEB in all of our budgeting. I was really surprised that the school committee said they created their budget without even thinking about OPEB and not putting any calculations in for it. It doesn't seem to be top of mind to the people that are most influential on the budget, and I think we need to continue to take a strong stand on this, if not stronger than before. If a global recession isn't catching people's attention and community bonds being down 15%, which has never happened before, this is the major fiscal item for almost every town in America, including North Andover, in addition to revenue. So I would like to reiterate and firm up the language.
I would agree with that. I think that we also should follow up. I mean, you guys were both on the committee, so you talked, tell me, but there was a recommendation. And at this time we have a new town manager. I think it would be prudent for our Board of Selectmen to work with her to confirm that she agrees with those recommendations, and then something to be formally kind of put in place.
I agree with everything that Chuck said. I heard them talk to, we appreciate and respect, this is the school committee, a school budget rather, we appreciate and respect the need for this thing, but we just don't, we get it. I'm like, well, that doesn't do it. And I was disappointed as well as Chuck. So I too would like to make this thing heavy-handed. And honestly, I don't know who takes the leadership on making this a formal policy. It was presented last July, and it's swallowed. Now, the only thing that I see coming out of it so far is Melissa taking to heart, at least for the 11 new full-time equivalents, to starting to fund those people's cost over a 10-year period. That's good, but there was more to this whole thing. And the fact that the school committee, which we had a member from the school committee, chose to ignore it, on the OPEB committee chose to ignore it, is kind of disturbing. So I'm with Chuck on that one.
So why don't you guys work, if you don't mind, work together and draft up some language and shoot it around to everyone, and then we can fine tune it, and go forward, so that we all feel comfortable with the how strong or not strong it is, right? And then because I think generally we all, unless anyone feels differently, please speak up. feel the same way. At least I do. That we should, there needs to be some approach to this. And I do think that the town manager is aware of it. We've all spoken about it at our meeting with the town manager, and I think that our point was we got our point across to the school administration as well. You guys asked some really, really great questions, and we're very specific about OPEB. So my hope, right, and I think what we probably need to say is that as part of that strategic plan to fund the school's 5-year plan, it needs to include, the recommendations that were brought forth by the OPEB committee.
Chuck and Tim, did you guys get a feeling in your OPEB work what other communities are taking this as seriously as we are?
Yeah,
Are we kind of on our own, or other communities?
Every town in America and every town in Massachusetts, with probably the exception of Wellesley, is facing the exact same issues, including Andover.
Are they doing anything about it?
Yeah, we've sent you a lot of details about what other towns are doing, and we're doing some of those as well. So I don't know. Those are emails we sent last summer. For example, Andover went back on their promises to retirees and cut their benefits and got sued for it. Every town is doing something different. Most towns are not doing nothing, and we're doing what we can. But this has been a crisis in slow motion now for at least 5 years across the country, including us and many towns in Massachusetts. We've sent you responses and policies that other towns have put into place, but none of them are a magic fix. These are, incremental changes that over the long haul should work, but they're still not enough. I mean, we need real creativity and real commitment from everybody, and that especially includes the people making the budget. It's unconscionable after the uproar that we've tried to raise about OPEB that the school committee didn't even consider OPEB when they made their 5-year budget, which increases by millions and millions of dollars. There's too many assumptions are being made without even back of the envelope calculations. Tim, do you have anything to add to that?
Relatively recent, there was a report from the town of Burlington that they've got a plan to fully fund their liability within the next 10 years. They've laid it out in numbers. Again, it's an execution thing right now, but they do have a plan. So that's relatively recent. I just got a copy of that report. I can share that with you if you want.
Yeah, they've got the biggest industrial base of any town in this area, though. That's I guess the thing I was looking for is every year as a percentage, it becomes a bigger and bigger liability because we're diverting dollars that we could use for things that we want to do to accrue for this liability. That is a percentage. It's actually the dollars get bigger, but the percentage gets bigger every year. Is that a correct statement? I mean, and at some point we won't be able to. At some point we won't be able to maintain that 5% conceivably if the costs go up greater than the tax levies and the normal cost of inflation. I mean, I think it's pretty safe to assume that for the time being, health insurance and retirement benefits are going at twice the rate of the economy, right? So if that's correct, my point is we can't solve it, but we should at least call it out and just explain it. Just keep it, just keep it simple. That the reality is, the more people we hire, we've got to start accruing for their long-term benefits today, but you eventually fall behind unless you bring in some sort of additional tax revenue.
Yeah, thank God we don't have a pot farm giving us $10 million a year right now.
Well, you may have an Amazon delivery system bringing you that. And there'll be a lot of pot smoking there, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, there
All
are
right.
ways to fix it, but there's nothing overnight that can happen. It's really about incremental change to policies and procedures and budgets. And clearly that message is not being received. Tim, we should call an OPEB committee meeting shortly to review this.
So I
Yeah.
asked I don't know if Tim was on the team, full transparency. I did ask that question, Chuck. So I reached out to the chair of the OPEB committee and asked if you would be meeting again and when, and I was told the plan was not that committee was not planning to meet again, that the presentation was made to the Board of Selectmen. And so I would, recommend, if you both feel like you should meet again, that you reach out to the chair and just request that meeting and see what happens, and please let me know how that goes. And perhaps, we could figure out what the next steps are, or, you guys could, and then relay it back to us in terms of the plan for how this is going to evolve. Because my understanding is, although this was incorporated in the budget for FY20, there was not any formal policy that was created from your proposal and presentation.
I think it's worse than that. I think there's a piece in the recommended proposal to take a part of the free cash and apply it towards the liability, the trust, and I don't really see that happening. So it was only partially followed.
And I also think we have a new town manager with a new perspective and different experience, right? So it's actually a really good opportunity to include her in that conversation. She's incredibly knowledgeable, and has, I think, proved to be excellent so far. So it's an opportunity for the committee to meet with her and have conversations specifically about it and get her perspective.
I agree. The other part that was there regarding the retirement, I may or may not, depends. I'm going to do some more analysis of it, but I may or may not just refresh that with the numbers, because again, that's a growing part of our responsibility towards our retirees. And I just want to make sure people don't keep their eyes on, don't forget about that part.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions about OPEB? Tim, I have that. I'm on my computer and I have that link for Burlington, so I will send it around because that was a great call to send that to everyone. Reserves, Kevin, do you have anything you wanted to discuss? I know we already kind of talked about the Special Education Stabilization Fund and the Finance Committee reserve.
Yeah, I was just wondering, the projected fund balances for each of the town capital stabilization fund, the town stabilization fund, OPEB, and SPED. Do you want specifics in the letter?
Yeah. So in last meeting, let me double check before I say this.
I'm looking at last year's. It said how they,
Oh, you are.
They tapped into SPED and then they brought it back. They tapped in. They transferred 250 in for FY19. They replenished the fund to 588. But I'm looking at SPED projected at 751. I just heard Tim say that that's going to be tapped again. Is that right?
That needs to be clarified a little bit. Because the reason why I'm saying that is because I think Melissa was thinking about transferring over town funds to help pay for that as opposed to tapping into it. It has to be it's got to have a special town meeting to do. And I don't recall seeing that.
Well,
I know.
I'm looking at her proposed budget, and she has 751,486 in there for the balance for June 20th of FY20, and she has the same balance for the projected for FY '21.
Hmm.
But I'm looking at the other numbers, like the town stabilization fund, about 5 million, the town capital stabilization fund around 931, and the OPEB around 4.2 million.
Okay, I got my notes from the meeting,
Pull them out.
and it says, I plan on using operating budget surplus to offset school deficit. Melissa would like to have it go away. Those were my notes from that meeting on my
Yeah.
budget. So, the school was planning on using it, I think, until Melissa jumped in there and said, no, don't use it. I'll get you the money you need.
I may,
Let's clarify that. So let me, do you want me to reach out and CC you both, because your school's in reserves, and get some clarity around how this is gonna function?
I'll just ask her
Well,
how she
you know-
plans on, she did speak
Yeah.
about this, and she does plan on spending town money, not the reserve, on helping out the school.
right.
Is someone on their computer, or it sounds like a feedback loop?
They're at a truck stop.
All right. Anything else about reserves? Capital improvement plan? Thomas?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. It's, I was on mute, but I didn't know I was on mute.
Happens to me all the time.
I should know better now since we're basically all day in these conference calls now.
Are you guys using
No.
conference calls or Zoom?
No, we're typically on Teams, Microsoft Teams.
Got it. Yep.
No big difference to the last couple of years. I'm going to highlight next year's plan, how that compares to previous years, and where's the majority of the funding. Structurally, there's really not a big difference. Mostly goes into the master plan, and then there's the school, and then the normal typical streets and stuff like that in the 5-year. So structurally, I don't see a big difference to the previous 2 years. What I don't, of course, all that is, I would say, investment is probably the most impacted about the current, impact of, coronavirus on the economy and then on the overall budget. So to have a 5-year plan and then estimating a debt ratio, I think that's going to be all be mute in the how it's all funded. That's pretty much in the air. So 4 weeks ago, I was pretty clear what I would write. Now I'm a little bit more cautious.
Okay.
I would say the investment budget is not sustainable with what's going on right now.
This isn't in my strength bucket at all, but does it make sense that we're using our CAT? I mean, would it be better for us to consider using debt at the rates they are right now compared to using our free cash? Just a question. I don't have an answer.
I didn't really understand your question.
So
We're using all of our free cash to pay for our.
the free cash? Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep.
So the question is, with everything dropping, why does it make sense for us to be not borrowing? Maybe cheaper money, and that's again maybe that guy who's doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, the consideration. Yeah.
I think the answer that Melissa gave was that, or my understanding, this is Sasha, that we, are going to have facilities master plan to fund. And we may need to, may or may not, and I'm not saying we do, or this is what's going to be proposed. I don't know. It wouldn't be us making this proposal. We would obviously be opining on it, but there may be some kind of debt exclusion. And so in order to maintain an appropriate ratio, we'd want to use free cash now, or use our cash now, and wait to borrow as part of figuring out how to fund facilities master plan too. And we'll know the scope of that shortly.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the assumption about our interest rates, maybe it's more, Chuck, you're closer to all that, but the recent, what's happening, especially on the munis, when suddenly interest rates doubled overnight, because nobody wants to buy them anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the federal government is going to start buying municipal bonds very shortly, if they haven't started already. So, yeah, I wouldn't count on our AAA rating being the saving grace that it always has been in the past. The next time we go to raise money, people are going to want to see progress on the major issues. And the major issue for us, in my opinion, on our rating is our off-balance sheet liabilities like OPEB. So the muni market is a total disaster right now, as are all the credit markets. They're completely frozen, locked up. AAA, single A, doesn't matter. The government is coming in to, federal government's doing a bit of a bailout. We'll see where that lands, but that's not a forever solution. What we really need to do is get our fiscal house in order and make sure that we're stress tested, because the recession will be very hard on North Andover finances. We're very reliant on tax revenues going up every year. In the budget, it's assumed millions of dollars. Having it go the other way, not in anybody's plan, but it needs to be. So I don't have a lot to add there, other than to say there's huge dislocations in the credit market, and munis are also in the crosshairs. The best thing we can do is help ourselves.
I do want to say, and this is, my fault for kind of ending with Lynn early. I did have a conversation with her today and asked if she and Melissa were prepared to have a conversation with us regarding how they thought at this point the current coronavirus pandemic was going to impact North Andover directly. And so I can say from a short-term perspective, there has been no change in terms of like cost and their forecast for some of those revenue items going forward. But we will, we can, go back. I can go back to them a bit, and I think Lynn was going to go have a conversation with Melissa, and they can have a more in-depth conversation with us about that. And I can ask them to do that on April 8th, or at least answer a response via email for all of us to see, so that we have that and we can get some of our questions answered.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, how, maybe towns are a little bit different, but you talk to companies, the first thing they do, they put all the investments on hold and wait and see how the cash is developing, and just to, say it's all business as usual, I think that's probably not the right thing, even if towns are, run a little bit different than companies,
I think that makes sense in some cases, but in others, like, you're not going to not build a senior center. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's future projects that haven't been established or voted on that you would rethink, but I'm not sure that certain projects that are already so far gone and have been approved, you would just kind of pull the plug unless we were, they felt like they had to do that and there was some kind of way to manage the community's expectations on that. At least at this stage. Maybe in in 6 months we would think otherwise. You guys can feel free to.
I'm all not spending $50,000 to restore a painting. Thought that was a good decision.
Yeah. You said painting. Yes. Well, and those are such earmarked funds that, but yeah, I get your.
Yeah, I know, but everybody should be having that same kind of lockdown attitude that.
Yep.
We need to really tighten the belt.
Yep. I get it. All of our. All right. So next on the list, does anyone have any comments about?
Just one thing. So I don't think I don't want to steer the discussion into that, but I think this time is very different than a normal recession. And I think the big difference is that all of us could be impacted fairly quickly, not just a few who get lose their jobs and then they can't pay their taxes, which are a small percentage. This time, if that continues, eventually we're all running out of cash. The whole country. Now, I don't want to go it now, completely, the sky is falling, but it's a bit of a different situation if suddenly none of us can pay the mortgage or our taxes anymore.
Oh, that's exactly right. Literally millions of Americans lost their jobs this week. That's never happened before. And that impacts real estate prices, even though mortgage rates are all-time lows. Nothing is moving. Prices are falling. Houses on the market are getting pulled off. The knock-on effects on this are dramatic. And it is, you're right, it's not just every town in Massachusetts or in the US, it's global.
Well, I think for this specific, the topic specifically for Thomas, your point about, this specific section of the letter, just to get back to it a bit, it's not going to be the same as you wrote last year. And I think putting in the basics that you have put in previous years, and then just kind of writing that, a section at the end that looking forward, we, kind of summarize what we've all spoken about. I think that we'll probably need to do that.
So, Sasha, sorry, everybody, this is Jen Luz. Question for you. We're going through this, and I think this is all an important process, but has there been in thinking about how this financial crisis and global crisis impacts what we're doing, I have to pause and wonder, is there any sign from the Board of Selectmen about whether or not the town meeting is actually going to go forward as scheduled and whether things are still on track? Or if we're working, I mean, I think we still keep working on the schedule, but the local town elections were just postponed until June 2nd from the end of this month. And if the guidance in a month or two is still that people need to be social distancing, I don't see how a town meeting happens. So I know these are much bigger questions than anything that we as a committee can grapple with, but I have a hard time thinking through, my section, which is pretty small, and which we haven't gotten to yet, but I have a hard time thinking through what the financial impacts will be on the Stevens estate from this entire thing. And I suspect, as with everything that we are all dealing with in our own lives, that the calculus on it will change from day to day, week to week. And so the timing of all of this is going to play a role in what we say in our summary.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But because we don't have an answer yet, I have a kind of like a move, just continue to move forward approach, because I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm not part of that decision-making body. Of course, we can find out. I know Mark DeSalvo is working actively with the kind of group of moderators in Massachusetts. And I know that the Board of Selectmen are looking at this. I know that they postponed our election. That was supposed to take place on March 31st. So yes, there's a lot of things in play. But I think what we can do is we know what the budget looks like today that we are potentially going to approve on April 8th. So if we can continue to move forward, because that's kind of what I see the Board of Selectmen doing, to meet our milestones that are required of us, then that's all we can do until there's a time in which we know that we can change our letter, or we can wait, or we get some indication that we're not going to move forward. Because right now the deadlines are April 8th and this letter is April 10th, right? So I have no other information to be able to allow kind of us to not have this conversation. And I think, getting specific ideas about the budget structure, how the budget process went, we can do that now. And then if we need to fill in and change things based on the economic climate of, the beginning of April, then we can do that.
But Sasha, this is like in 2 weeks, in less than 2 weeks.
I understand. But also 2 weeks ago,
as it stands today, this budget does not get my vote. And it would be foolish, to just say, well, that's what we have and we approve that. And left and right, the impact is maybe even more severe than what we see today.
You misunderstood me, Thomas. What I meant is this is what we have today to discuss regarding the letter, as in how the budget process went and what's being proposed. And if there is a specific conversation you want to have around, what we wouldn't approve and why, and is it because of the economic climate, we can have that discussion. And I anticipate we will continue to have that and need to have that directly with Melissa and Lynn as well. But in terms of getting us prepared to write these sections, we have to have a conversation about the other pieces. And if we can get those out of the way now, then we have the ability to be more flexible given everyone's time constraints, because we are all trying to work at home, and some of us do have children at home with us as well. Then we can address those sections while we get more information. Was that more clear?
Sure. I mean,
so all of that being said, give me some recommendations then on what you would like, what you would like, or any recommendations you have to move forward. My recommendation would be for me to have another conversation with Lynn and Melissa directly. I'm sure that they will also, they can listen to this meeting. We can think through the impact of this event on our budget and get their feedback, and then move discussions from there. Does that feel like it makes sense?
I think it does, Sasha.
This is
Okay.
Jen. Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Okay. And my pushing this is just so that if we get other comments later that we feel comfortable with, I don't want to have to start this conversation from scratch. I hope that came across. I'm trying to get what we can talk about and do, taken care of and agreed upon, and get that out of the way now, so we're not left kind of struggling to manage and meet deadlines in an inappropriate manner down the line, if that's more clear. Okay, so does anyone have any more kind of comments or questions about capital improvement plan?
No.
All right, enterprise funds. Ed, do you want to just
Yeah, so I
have a
actually,
quick conversation?
yeah, I had some time to look over the enterprise funds. I think the story is relatively good. I think, while on the surface, the statement that the enterprise funds grew 18%, most of that 18% was a significant transfer to capital. We're planning a couple $1 million of maintenance and equipment for the water fund and $500,000 for the sewer fund. But much like all the previous years, it doesn't look like the rates are going to go up. They're self-funding, doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think the interesting part of the enterprise funds, and I think, Jen, you're going to be talking about this, is the Stevens Estate, and that would be, if we're trying to conserve space, I'd have two small blurbs on water fund and sewer fund, and maybe take the time to discuss the Stevens Estate. I did think, and I like I said to you earlier, and I feel like I'm editorializing, but I have several sentences, but I thought it made sense to kind of reiterate that we rejected a proposal to either contract to the private sector or to or a direct sale of the property, and then kind of get into the 2020 was a challenging year. The revenue did drop significantly. The last couple of years, they've contributed $50,000 to capital. They're not doing that this year, and yet we're going to put $138,000 investment into the facility. So, I mean, those are just facts, but they do, to somebody reading it quickly, I think they get the message that the Stevens Estate is far from settled. You may like it, you may want to sell it, whatever your opinion is. These are just immutable facts, and it's not going to fix itself. But we do have to make some sort of a decision on it. So that was just my high level. I've got it. I took the liberty of kind of writing up. I kept it pretty simple, and I kept it to half a page. So you have that. So I'll leave it at that.
So this is Jen.
It's
Sorry, go ahead.
It's Thomas. And it's too bad we can't meet together. It's really so difficult. But the enterprise fund is, like, for me, that's where we are the closest to the impact of the virus crisis. Again, and maybe I'm here alone, but my business is a day away from completely shutting down, with enormous impact on 30 people. And really just because one component can't be manufactured anymore. And then I can't sell a complete system. I need all 10 components. If I have only 9, it's not going to happen. So it's really a small thing that can impact any business quickly. And we don't have to talk about restaurants and. What if our enterprise funds don't get paid for 3 months? What if there's a moratorium on paying your utility bill to help people out? Or they just can't pay it? What happens then to our sewer and water enterprise? And Stevens Estate, I mean, they won't be allowed to do anything for the next 6 months. There's nothing coming in. I mean, that's
Oh,
our
that's-
restaurant business, right on under our nose. That's completely standstill, with no revenue coming in.
That's an
It's a
excellent
huge
point.
hole, just that enterprise fund, you know? Again, it's a little bit different on the other side where you're funded with tax revenue, but what if there's a moratorium? You know, you don't have to pay your tax bill for 3 months or your quarter or two.
Right. Well, and I guess, what impact would that have on the Greater Lawrence Sanitary District as well, right? Because there's so many communities. So are there other communities that are more adversely affected and they have a bigger impact than us, but then we are, somehow ancillary, impacted as well. All right, so those are really good comments, and I'm not sure that we've given Lynn and Melissa enough time to think about them and answer them. So I will ask them to have that discussion. Let me get some more information, and I can present that to all of you, and we can decide if we want to have a special meeting in between now and April 8th to specifically just talk through some of these challenges, a quick call, or if we want to do something else, I can reach out to everyone via email. All right, in terms of sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm being quiet, Thomas. I think you raised some excellent questions, because everything I've been kind of racing through, thinking the impact on everything, and to the extent you can in 5 minutes. You raised something that I'm sure Melissa and company is thinking about, but you are right. I was sort of thinking about this is that's out of our control. Let's just consider it's let's, as Sasha said, let's just kind of do our job and bring this together. But you are right. I mean, if you did have to, how do you vote on a budget that just has a lot of uncertainty? Although I'm not sure anybody has any answers, but you got me thinking anyway. That's which I think that's what you intended to do. So, well said.
All right. Any questions on specifically just talking about this report? All right. So everyone has kind of their section that they can write about the pieces of the facts, right? Of what things look like. It's we don't have to focus on all the other questions we have. We will get answers to those and have an opportunity to, as a committee, to flesh out all of those questions. With Melissa and Lynn, I will work on that. But in the meantime, if we could just start to produce those other kind of sections and comments, I think that would be really helpful. And as I get some more information, I will relay that to all of you regarding process, if there's any delays, if there is a delay, when we will find that out, and all that good information, so we can make better decisions. And I know they're working on all that. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? Or I do, Thomas, I just do want to circle back on your comment about not feeling comfortable approving the budget. And I just want to make sure that that's because of our current situation. It's not because of anything else within the budget that you want to investigate or you need more information about. It's because of the current, obviously, virus and the impacts of that.
No, absolutely. It's the
okay.
The revenue side, it's completely
yeah.
unknown.
I'm just confirming so that I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing in getting everyone kind of the platform that they need to ask questions and the information that they need to feel comfortable or not feel comfortable. But I just didn't want to leave that out there without circling back. All right, any other questions or comments before we adjourn the meeting?
Nope.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you. That was Tim who made the motion and Ed who seconded the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank you,
Thank
Sasha.
you, everyone. I appreciate it, and I am here. If you have any questions or need anything, just give me a call.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Sasha.
Sasha.
Good night,
Thanks, Sasha.
everybody.
Thanks.
Take
Bye.
care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Be safe.